How many discounts does USAA Auto Insurance offer? Too many to say here. Multi-vehicle discount, safe driver discount, new vehicle discount, storage discount, legacy.
How many discounts will you stack up? Visit USAA.com/auto discounts. Restrictions apply.
Brooks Running reminds us that we're all powered by something. Whether it's the me-time energy of a run after a day at the office, the electrifying energy of your first marathon, or the infectious energy of a group run with your friends. No matter what energy powers you, Brooks has gear specifically designed to unleash it. So lace up and let it out. Let's run there. Visit brooksrunning.com today to learn more.
Icy Hot Pro with 2 max strength pain relievers. Targets multiple pain receptors. Ice works fast, heat makes it last.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? Well, with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills. Wait, did I say job title yet? Get started today and see how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. We'll even give you a $100 credit on your next campaign. Get started at linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome into the Tour Coach, everybody. I'm your host, Tony Ruggiero, as I am every week here on the Tour Coach podcast. If you've been listening for a while or you've recently started listening, you probably know that, or if you're new, this is really for you, but these are the stories and the conversations and the chats with the people that I meet in my journey in golf, coaching, teaching, playing golf. These are the fitness instructors, the mental coaches, the performance coaches, the other teachers, the players, and the people that I run into day to day teaching and coaching that I think shed interesting perspectives, have great views, and information that can help all of you that love the game of golf play better, coach better, teach better, practice better. It's all in an effort to give you the best information. So hopefully you like these conversations here on the Tour Coach. We appreciate all of you listening and watching. And more importantly, or equally as important, we appreciate our sponsors, Mitch McConnell and Buick GMC, Blaine Stokely, Stokely's Midtown Garden Center, Taylor Martino and Rowan. And none of this would be possible without the folks at Shrixon Golf and Vineyard Vines and Bushnell. They've been with us forever. We're going to be with you, helping you play the game of golf better. Enjoy the Tour Coach podcast. Go find us on YouTube, Dew Sweeper TV. Follow us, like us, comment.
All right, so joining me here on the Tour Coach and also on the Dew Sweepers radio here for a little short segment. We were talking earlier today, Jackson Koert, and I thought we'd take this conversation just on the air. We were just talking about, you and I talk all the time about teaching and coaching and just normal stuff that would ramble through my head as I'm on the road to New Orleans with Will McFadden, frequent contributor, driving the new Buick and Vista, which I have courtesy of McConnell Automotive. Little read there. Anyways, riding down I-10 headed to New Orleans to the Superdome and to the Saints, and probably going to watch Dennis Allen get his ass lit on fire again today by Sean Payton. But it is Drew Brees night. So anyways, we're excited about that. But anyways, Jackson, let's talk a little bit about continuing to develop. I think it's important. I think a lot of the things we talk about equally apply to being a player and a coach. Talk a little bit about your thoughts on continuing to develop and learn from each.
Yeah. So I have to obviously give you a shout out because you're always on the forefront of pushing us to get better in many different ways. Because like if you're a player, right, you have a ton of different avenues in which you can improve. It can be putting, wedges, bunkers, iron play, driving. It could be technical, could be maybe even routine, how you're working out, like so many other things. But coaches on the other end of that end of the spectrum have a bunch of other things that can influence them, right? Technology, how they're using social media, their spheres of influence, time management, scheduling, all these things. And obviously this conversation was spurred on from technology that you're implementing down at Old Palm, being Sportsbox, which is like 3D markers and stuff like that. So we can talk more about that. But I think for me in particular, as a coach, I did not have this as a player. And I haven't learned this until recently either. It's a fine line of balance between, obviously, yes, continuing to push the envelope and see what you can learn and see how you can adapt and become a better coach, but also staying true to what you coach and who you are as a coach. So I think I've gotten better at that balance, and not experimenting with players or trying something because I saw you do it or heard something online, but being able to chew on information and discern what I'm getting and how I can apply that to different people. I think that's kind of where I am, is a balance between staying true, learning, but also figuring out who needs information and how they need that information differently.
Yeah, and I think early in my career, I didn't do a very good. I think I've always done a good job of trying to push myself to learn. I've always tried to push myself to be, kind of not on the leading edge, but like try to make sure that whatever we needed to offer players to get the best players, we were able to offer, right?
Right.
But maybe at stages I didn't do a great job of not allowing that to change how I taught or who I taught. Most noticeably, I'd say like when I first got a track man and stuff like that, maybe, and I saw other teachers having a bunch of success with that. I tried to change a little bit and I was less successful. Now I think I do a pretty decent job acquiring things and still staying true to what I think and what I do. And I told a young teacher the other day, you've heard me have this conversation, I think it early in your career, but all the time. I still do it once a year. You sit down and you write down the things that you think are important and that you believe are important in the golf swing. And that doesn't mean that you teach it. It doesn't mean you teach a system, but the things that you prefer and the things that you like. And I think you evaluate that. I do that every year. It's some time or the other. And I think that's healthy to do. And I think when you're young and you're new and you're starting out, that's way harder than you think it will be to write down what you think, what you believe. And, and so as I looked at where I was as a teacher this past year, and I thought about players that I would like to teach and that I would want to teach, I think the players in the world up and coming are evolving more than ever. There's more information out there. And while I'm old school and all of that stuff, I think we have to have a better understanding. For me, felt like I had to have a better understanding of 3D. I had to have a better understanding of that technology and the ability to use that in order to be able to continue to be a resource and an asset that young, up and coming, and good players would want to use. Not just for my coaching and teaching and all that, but I think that, and we've had this conversation. There's lots of teachers out there. I know some great ones that I don't think have done a very good job continuing to adapt with what the players need. And I think if you want to continue to help players and develop players, you've got to adapt and change as the players are while still staying true to who you are.
What other challenges have you had with the adaptation?
With what?
With adapting.
I think the hard part is understanding that because you have technology doesn't mean you have to use it all the time. Doesn't mean you have to also let the player see every piece. I think the art of coaching and teaching is the ability to figure out when a player needs certain information and when they don't.
Oh, that's good.
Right? And, The guy I came up under, I think, was one of the best I've ever seen at that. The person I watched recently in Vegas, Butch, is probably the greatest there's ever been at that. That's just something that's real transcendent, great players. And so, but I think in this day and age of information, we've got to be able, as a coach and a teacher, if you want to teach and coach at the highest level, I think you've got to have an understanding of all the disciplines out there. And, it's no different than what I did early in my career 12 years ago with Colby. I felt like that was a beginning, a booming, a part of the puzzle that I didn't understand a lot at that time. So I started doing stuff with him. Now, he jokes all the time that, I know as much or more than most of those TPI guys running around out there now. And that's probably true. But, that was why I added that piece of the puzzle. That when ground forces, force plates became big, we had some of the first ones, and we started using Dr. Lynn to help understand, right? So I think that's something I've always done, and I think it's good I think where you go wrong as a teacher or a player is if you think something's going to be important for you to improve, not addressing it, or B, not bringing somebody in to help you if you aren't good at it.
Yeah. Has there been a way in which players use technology that you've learned from and helped other players with?
Say that again.
So, is there something you've learned from players that, in how they use technology, right? Like Lucas or Andy or Will McFadden, who's driving next to you. Is there things that you've seen from players where you're like, oh, shoot, that's pretty good?
So Will McFadden brought kind of branch off. It's like we were talking in the studio before we left to go on the road to watch the Saints. And, we were talking about 3D and different things. I think not all players want the same amount, right? I think you got to learn how to use each piece of technology with the player. That goes back to what's an art, right?
Yeah.
As I look through players like Andy Ogletree is one that I think really has pushed me to kind of do this because one, I've known him for a long time. I've watched him evolve as a player and as a person. He's inquisitive. He wants to know. And I think to do the job that I want to do for him and with him, this is something that will help us get where we want to go. Right?
Right.
I don't know that with a guy like Will, it would make as much difference, but I think being able to measure where I always point to the one thing where I wish I had more info and I used technology better was Smiley Coffee. And so when Smiley had that unbelievable stretch of a couple of years where he played as good at golf and he hit it beautifully, won Vegas, he won on the Korn Ferry Tour, won his second or third start at Vegas, second, I think, and made the final group of Masters. I didn't have very much technology around me at that point because we hadn't built a facility at Mobile yet, and I was teaching mostly him on the road. And so then when he hit the skids and he didn't play as good, I didn't have a lot of data to back up what I thought. Right. And I thought that's a big part of why I lost control of that situation, the inability to prove your point to a player that's struggling. So that has spurred me since then to realize that I've got to do a better job of when a player is playing really good, to have as much info and data as we can be able to show that to them, right? I think it would have helped me with Ben Carr. I don't know that teaching, using it along the line with him would make a difference. When he struggled, or I think that having some of this would have helped. Possibly. So I think, that's kind of how I want to use it, right, at this point.
All right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm obviously trying to pick your brain about it because it's like, it's funny how people use stuff differently. And
I will say this, like when we had this thing installed, and I was talking to him, and I was like, hey, I want to start off with these are the 4 or 5 things that I look at a lot. I want to start by measuring those and just use those for a little bit so I can kind of get my feet wet how I'm going to use it, right? And I think that's something every teacher's got to do, and every player has to do, is figure out whatever technology they have, what parts of it do you want to use and benefit you? And I think you can take that down to guys like Will or versus guys like Andy, like just using a quad or a TrackMan or a launch point, right? Like a guy like Will can take that technology and he's going to use it, and he uses that stuff to become great with wedges and distances, right?
Yeah.
You take another player, they may use it because they're really big on, they want to always know what their path and their face is or whatever, or their attacking. So I think it all still goes back to where we were. You go back to January when we had Butch on that golf coach development, and he said, I teach golf. I teach the player.
Right.
Sitting in front of him. Right. And so that's our job as teachers and coaches, is which parts of these technology can we use to help the player in front of us?
And that is your Cleveland Srixon XEO tip of the week.
Right. And again, I think that's where as you get older, you can probably get a little better at it. And I mean, I know that there's guys who use all this stuff all the time, and that's their style, and they get players that works for them. There's guys, and people that, but I do think that to be effective teaching the best players in the world nowadays, young players coming up.
Speed check recorded.
We got a speed check on I-10 coming up. You've got to be able to adapt to what their needs are. And I think this generation is going to require us to be more adept and more skilled with more types of technology and have a better understanding of it and a better ability to communicate the 1 or 2 things we want them to do using different technologies.
Hey, it's Paris. I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Becoming the most valuable sports franchise in the world doesn't happen without risk. A man who's willing to bet it all, and the players ready to make their own luck. America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, is the story of the 1990s Dallas Cowboys and Jerry Jones's impact on NFL history. Featuring interviews with iconic 90s players and more. Watch America's Team, The Gambler and His Cowboys, August 19th, only on Netflix.
You're tuned into Auto Intelligence, live from Auto Trader, where data, tools, and your preferences sync to make your car shopping smooth.
They're searching inventory.
Oh, yeah.
They find what you need.
They're gonna find it.
You can make a budget for your wallet to help you succeed. Pricing's precise and true.
So true.
It's smarter car shopping.
Ooh.
Just for you.
Oh, it's just for you. Ooh. Find your next ride at autotrader.com. Powered by Auto Intelligence.
Got some good news for your ears. More of that good stuff is coming up. And even better news for your hair. The best hair care is at Sephora. They've got all kinds of products for every kind of hair. From brands like Amika, Kerastase, Day, and K18. You knew where to get great audio. Now, you know where to get great hair care, too. Sephora. Good news for great hair. Shop hair care now at Sephora.com.
Okay. So, do you think, so I'm trying to figure out, because I think applying this to me, and this is obviously all really good. I appreciate you sharing that. For me, I think when I start working with good players, because I still don't have a ton of time under my belt with, some players that are very developed. A lot of it, I think, for me is is like self-discovery, trying to figure out how they tick, right? And how they process things for their own game. Like you're talking about how everybody would use technology differently. So what happens, or how would you use technology if the message gets stale or you're trying to convey something differently?
I think that's, well, for one, I think I'm still in self-discovery, and anybody that's honest is still in self-discovery every day we go to work, right? We're trying to figure out ways to get better and ways to make ourselves better. And you've been with me a long time. You know how personal and hard and beat up I take it when I don't do a good job and I get fired or somebody doesn't play well. I think we're always where you are, right? We may have more tools in our tool belt, to quote Mike Adams, or whatever to use, but we're all still there. I think, but I think to your point, we can use technology to help keeping the message from getting stale, right? Because to me, you can use it to prove your point different ways.
Right.
You can and prove things by measuring. Again, and I think if a player knows, again, I think if you can prove to a player what they do when they play their best, it's got to be better ammunition for you when they're struggling and you're trying to get them to go back to something you worked on before, right?
Right.
Players don't always, what they feel like they're doing and what they're doing are not always the same thing. I think that's one of our challenges is sometimes when a player's feeling something, that's probably exactly what they're doing. Do you tell them any different if they're making a bunch of cash? Probably not, right? You let them run with it as long as you can. That's my motto, keep the checks cashing. So, I just think, but I think that having tech, whether it's force plates, 3D, any of the stuff that's out there, it's all great, right? Launch monitors are all tools to give us more ways to help them stay on task and to find different ways to convey a message. And I also think, but I still don't think we'll ever get away from trying to slow people down, make them do things slow, I think my go-to is if we're having a hard time getting them to do something, it's, is there a band drill or something we can get them to do without a club, without a ball, not in performance mode, not worried about where the shot's go, that's going to help them learn it and develop a feel. And going back to our good buddy, Dr. Greg Carton, and that is if we can help them figure out what their good feels like, then they can just try to go make it feel that way for 18 holes and see how it works.
That's good stuff right there, T.
You like that, Jackson Koert?
I do. Is there anything after 3D that you think would be the next step for you, or that you would want to see tech in golf instruction?
I hope I'm done pretty soon. Man, I don't know. Again, I'm not the greatest by far on knowing what's out there and what's coming up, right? I really do try to do a pretty good job of living in the day that I'm in and, figuring where I'm going to go with a player. But I'm not the best at looking towards tech. Guys like Dana Dahlquist, I'm sure, Tim Breon at Foresight, I know, I've known him for a long time. I mean, those guys, Chris Como, those guys would probably be way ahead. It'll be interesting to see what AI is going to do. Obviously, it would probably be the next frontier, right? That'll probably give a bunch of dumb fucks the thought that they can teach golf. Is probably what it'll do. But we'll edit that. But anyways,
I think the only thing, and there's been a little bit out there on it, is some sort of pressure mapping or ability to track forces on the grip.
Yeah. They're already doing some of that,
Right. It's not prevalent yet, but
like my job is to use what's available to help the guy in front of me. In the end, that's what I always feel like. So if there's something that's available out there that can help us, then I think we got to figure out a way to get it. I also think one of the negatives to technology is it makes it harder as a younger teacher to get in the game from the fact of like it's expensive nowadays, right? You know, you dealing with that. Now you're over at Atlantic Beach and, you know, like, I mean, we joke all the time. I mean, we probably got $150,000 worth of shit in that studio I've got, right? You know, it's not cheap. But like I said earlier, if you're going to teach, if you're going to make an attempt to help really good players, I mean, I think you got to be able to offer and understand all of the info that's out there. And I think that's our job if we're going to help the people in front of them, right?
Yeah. I think it's not even good players, because I had a guy, it's a member here, actually listens to the Tour Coach podcast fairly regularly. He had mentioned, you know, he had made some good progress, kind of slipped back, didn't know how to get it back. Maybe it's whatever. Anyways, but he wanted a really good understanding and a plan to know, hey, this is where we're going and this is why we're going there. But he wanted to be able to track it because obviously we've got the swing catalyst here at the club as well, but unable to use that right now because I'm currently horizontal in the men's locker room attendance office and I can't install the swing catalyst myself. So yeah, but I mean, this guy's playing in the 7th flight of the Atlantic Beach Country Club member guest this weekend.
But he's still wanting to get better, right?
But he's still wanting to get better. It doesn't have to be just Andy Ogletree, right?
Right, exactly. And I mean, I think that, you know, I think if we exhaust our resources on every player that's in front of us, you'll get where you're trying to go. You know, again, I think it comes down to helping the guy in front of you. You know, I felt like I would say I felt like in the last year that I didn't do as good a job as I wanted with some folks. And I felt like there was some stuff out there that would help me do a better job.
I lost you there. What'd you say? You didn't?
I said I felt like over the last year, I didn't do as good a job with some folks as I went into wanted. And in the end, I felt like adding more resources and me growing as a teacher and developing a better understanding of some things would help me help them.
Got it.
Right. So that would be why, you know, I said, hey, these are things we got to be able to do. And again, I just think no different than playing. But I think players nowadays are they have more understanding of technology and of things that are out there than they used to, and as much or more than us. I mean, there's players that come to us that know more about some of the stuff. So you've got to be able to converse with them. You've got to be able to understand what they're talking about if you want to be able to help them or if you want to get clients.
Mm.
You like that?
Yeah, I really do.
I think it's good. It's been a good combo. I think we're going to keep doing these and putting these out for young players and teachers. And I think, and I also think too that when you're looking for somebody to help you with your game, you want to know the type of technology that you're looking for. You want to go to somebody that not only has that, but has had success developing or teaching players like you.
Mm.
You know, just because a guy has the tech, if he's never made anybody good with it, that probably wouldn't be the guy to go see.
Right.
Right. You know, I mean, I think it goes both ways, teachers and players. You know, you got to know what you're looking for.
What if there is something on tech that's better or more along the lines of what they would push from that technology, but the player hasn't necessarily been able to transfer that skill and or doesn't like it?
If a player doesn't like what the tech is telling them?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's a good, here's where I think you have to be careful with tech. So I like using tech to measure things that I see. I hate shit that is like where people feel like it's like the one thing I'm not going to use on any of that is like what a tour average is. Stuff. Because I think the definition of average means there's people on both ends of the spectrum, right? And so I think where people make mistakes is saying this guy's at this, and that's outside this average, so we got to make a change. And whereas I think the only time you should make a change, way more important here for a tour player, good player, upcoming player, is if the number you're reading or the thing that you're seeing is something that's keeping them from controlling their golf.
Right.
Is what you're seeing keeping them from, I think the first thing you can do with every player is try to figure out what's with a tour player or a good player. I mean, what area of their game is it that keeps them from getting where they're going? Is it speed? Is it the ability to control it off the tee? Do they a good enough iron player? Whatever. And then our job is to look at their golf swing and use the resources available to us to figure out what that one thing is. It's causing the other stuff to happen. But, I think people find that, I think the TrackMan phase had a lot of people try to zero things out because that was common. And I taught a good player, a great player that, had fallen into that. And a guy that hits a big draw needs to be more in to out with a face more shut to that path, right? So, I think still the more technology there is for good players, I think the more useful we become because we become the dispenser of information and we become the person that helps them figure out which one of those numbers or which piece of the puzzle is what's causing the most thing. So I don't think that technology makes us less important. I think it makes us more important.
What's been your least favorite piece of tech?
All of it. I had an early version of a 3D system that I didn't think was very good that I thought, quite frankly, was worthless.
Sorry, I lost you there for a second. What does he say?
I had an early piece of like a motion capture type system, 3D type thing that I didn't think was very good. That's why I never went back into any of the stuff. You used it with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't think it was very good. I thought the readings were I thought it was too hit and miss. I thought some of the biofeedback stuff of it was great, but I didn't think the readings were exact. For me, it didn't work very well, right? And I also thought the ability, I think the cool stuff about the 3D now is you can run it and it's being filmed and it's markerless, like there's no setup.
Right.
So I think you got the opportunity to also use it just when you're with Joe or Mary Sixpack in a lesson and they're a 15 handicapper and you film them and you might be able to pull something up and show them without having to put them in a monkey suit. Right. So that one particular, really all the other tech that I've had, I've liked and I've used. Maybe I've chosen to not use it very much. But that one would be the only one that I really felt like, for what I spent kind of doing it, I for sure never got that much use out of it.
You got it.
But I've never, all of the force plate, pressure mapping stuff, man, that's been worth everything we've ever done even if it was just from a learning perspective of what we do. I think that stuff's been phenomenal. Obviously all the video and good cameras. Shit, the best thing I got is this iPad. This thing's amazing.
Yeah.
Jackson, this was awesome. We're going to keep doing these little minis. These are fun.
I love it.
Random musings and conversations with Jackson Koert. from the floor of Atlantic Beach Country Club.
That's exactly right.
Keep up all the good stuff. We're looking forward to having you back in the swing soon. Appreciate this. We'll do another one in a week or so, but we'll look forward to more, buddy. You get better and keep coaching those folks up over Atlantic Beach.
I will. I appreciate your time, T. Appreciate your insight and sharing it all. I know you're going to have some fun over there in New Orleans with McFadden.
McFadden and I might have one Coors Light this afternoon. If we can find an Epic Western, we're going to do that too. Shout out to another sponsor. We're knocking them dead on sponsors today. But also one last reminder too. I know Jackson's going to put some stuff up this week, but we've had that great series with Hank Johnson. But check out, if you like our instruction and you like stuff, check out Do Sweeper TV on YouTube. All you got to do is go to YouTube, type in Sweeper TV, something up every game, including these, but lots of videos and drills. So Jackson, we appreciate it. We'll catch you with you soon.
Thanks, T.
See you, buddy.